Boilers fear explosions, oil heaters fear fires. Which to choose? Many factories keep using oil heaters for three common reasons. First, the production line technology has not changed over the years, so they simply continue using it the same way. Second, because of the concern that steam boilers may easily explode, they avoid considering the use of boilers. Third, many people do not know that these two systems can actually be interchangeable. This is a very common misunderstanding among factory owners. That is also the reason I made this video, so that you can understand more clearly, recognize the pros and cons, and choose the most optimal technology investment for your production line. At the same time, anticipate possible risks and control them. First of all, I want to affirm that every production line using heat can operate with either a steam boiler or a thermal oil heater. However, for each specific heat requirement, the configuration of steam boilers and thermal oil heaters will differ. Therefore, we must evaluate which one is more suitable for investment. We have long-standing experience switching between steam boilers and thermal oil heaters over the past 15 years, especially in the rubber latex drying industry. If you follow DIVI channel often, you will see a video about rubber drying with thermal oil heaters and boilers. If you are interested, please check that video on the channel. First, I will give a summary of what a steam boiler is and what a thermal oil heater is. Both steam boilers and thermal oil heaters are closed systems. Steam boilers contain water, while thermal oil heaters contain heat transfer oil inside. Both absorb heat from the fuel combustion process and transfer it to the medium. Water in steam boilers and oil in thermal oil heaters. A steam boiler converts water into steam, creating natural pressure that allows steam to move to the point of use. A thermal oil heater only heats oil from low temperature to high. It does not generate steam and therefore no pressure. To circulate the oil, a pump is required. The circulation pump delivers oil into the production line and returns it, running continuously during operation. By now you can clearly see the difference. There are two main points. First, the heat transfer medium. Boilers use water, thermal oil heaters use oil. Second, the transport method. Boilers rely on natural pressure, while heaters rely on circulation pumps. I will analyze the cost differences. First is the medium cost. If using water, we must purchase it at 15,000 to 20,000 Vietnamese dong per cubic meter and treat it at 5,000 to 10,000 Vietnamese dong per cubic meter. This is the chemical cost for water treatment, which must be maintained continuously while the boiler runs. If condensate is returned, the makeup water required will be less. For example, a 10-ton steam boiler running at full load will consume 10 cubic meters of water per hour. With 50% return, 5 cubic meters per hour needs to be added. This means water costs about 100,000 Vietnamese dong per hour, equal to 2.4 million per day, 72 million per month, and 864 million per year. The chemical treatment cost is about 72 million per month, or 864 million per year. In total, water and chemicals cost about 1.7 billion per year. For a thermal oil heater equal to a 10-ton steam boiler with 7 million kilocalorie capacity, about 30 cubic meters of oil are required in the whole system. 1 liter of oil costs about 70,000 Vietnamese dong. Thus, 30 cubic meters of oil costs about 2.1 billion Vietnamese dong. The oil can last from 3 to 10 years depending on the operating conditions. Each year requires an addition of 5 to 10%, about 105 to 210 million Vietnamese dong per year. Overall, the oil cost is still lower compared to water. The difference is that oil requires a one-time investment plus bank interest, while steam can be paid gradually according to consumption. Regarding medium transport, boilers cost nothing because steam moves naturally through pipelines. A 7 million kilocalorie thermal oil heater requires a 75 kilowatt circulation pump. At 2,000 Vietnamese dong per kilowatt hour, electricity costs about 150,000 Vietnamese dong per hour. That equals 3.6 million per day, 108 million per month, and nearly 1.3 billion per year. Clearly, in terms of electricity for transporting the medium, boilers have the advantage. A summary of cost comparison between these two types of boilers is shown in the table. But note, when running under partial load, steam boiler cost decreases, while thermal oil heater cost almost does not change. Now we will move on to the next issue, which is the possible risks. Surely you have often heard about steam boiler explosions, right? It makes many people think boilers are easy to explode and unsafe. In reality, factories using thermal oil heaters are fewer and far less than those using boilers. On average, for every 10 to 15 steam boilers, only one thermal oil heater is used. Therefore, accidents from thermal oil heaters occur less frequently. On the other hand, many accidents from oil heaters, furnaces, or gasifiers are often all reported as boiler accidents. Therefore, boiler incidents appear in news reports happen. Another important problem is that many manufacturers make cheap boilers, relying on habit, not using heat-resistant steel. In addition, they remove some safety devices to reduce cost, which makes the product less safe. In reality, a standard steam boiler is almost impossible to explode if properly invested in. A steam boiler always has 5 levels of pressure protection, including 2 safety valves, 2 pressure switches to shut off when overpressure, and 1 pressure sensor for monitoring. It also has 5 levels of water protection using float and electrode level controls. Only if all fail can an explosion risk occur. If we check them daily, we can immediately know whether these protections still work. The detailed inspection method is shown in the video. Therefore, a boiler explosion is almost impossible if investment and operation are proper. But boiler explosion remains the greatest risk that factories have to face. For thermal oil heaters, when the circulation pump is running, the system pressure can reach 5 to 6 bar at the pump discharge, so the system is still under pressure. However, if the system leaks, the pressure will drop quickly because the medium is liquid. Therefore, pressure is not a major concern. But the greatest risk of thermal oil heaters is not pressure, but oil fire. Flash point temperature of oil is about 230 degrees Celsius or higher depending on the oil type. When oil is in spray form and reaches 230 degrees Celsius, it can ignite by itself without any flame. If a pipe or equipment leaks at this temperature, the oil will burn automatically. If such an incident happens inside a factory, it is a very high risk because it involves equipment, products, and human safety. This is an extremely serious hazard of thermal oil heaters. So how can we prevent this risk? Based on experience, 2 factors must be noted. The first is that oil quality must be good. We must regularly check the oil quality to know what the current flash point temperature is. Many factories do not check the oil for many years, which lowers the flash point and makes the fire and explosion risk extremely high. The second is that equipment fabrication quality must be good, with long warranty time and piping that meets proper standards. Many manufacturers use hot-rolled steel pipes to reduce cost, but after only 1 to 2 years, the pipes fail and oil leaks continuously. This is an issue only the fabricators or pipe suppliers know, while customers almost never realize it. At this point, you must see clearly which side has the more serious risk. In your opinion, are steam boilers more dangerous or thermal oil heaters more dangerous? Please leave your comment below. Now let's move to the basic question. When should we use steam boilers and when should we use thermal oil heaters? For a normal thermal oil heater, the medium temperature can reach up to 300 degrees Celsius at normal pressure. If it is special thermal oil, it can even reach higher temperatures. With a steam boiler, to reach 183 degrees Celsius, the pressure must be 13 bar, and to reach 234 degrees Celsius, the pressure must be 33 bar. To reach 300 degrees Celsius, the pressure must go up to 86 bar, which is very high while the temperature rise is slow. This is the reason why people choose thermal oil heaters instead of boilers when they need temperatures above 212 degrees Celsius. When steam temperature is above 212 degrees Celsius, the boiler design pressure must be above 25 bar. At that point, the equipment cost for boilers becomes higher than that for thermal oil heaters. Boilers operate under stricter high-pressure standards, leading to higher operation and maintenance costs. Furthermore, when pressure is high, the production line must also be designed for it, increasing equipment costs. Therefore, if the medium temperature requirement is less than or equal to 212 degrees Celsius, we can use either a steam boiler or a thermal oil heater. But if you need above 212 degrees Celsius, you should use thermal oil furnace because of low cost and simpler operation. And now we will move on to the next problem. So if we are using a boiler, can we switch to a thermal oil heater? And what about the opposite case? There are industries that must use steam boilers. For example, food steaming, sterilization, or concrete curing. If using thermal oil heaters, we must convert the heat into steam by a reboiler, which raises the investment cost. Conversely, for industries using indirect heat exchange, either boilers or oil heaters can be used. For example, fruit drying, agricultural drying, food drying, mold heating, and shoe sole pressing. However, if a system is using boilers and wants to switch to oil heaters, the heat exchangers definitely need modification. This means not only the boiler is changed, but also the production line itself. The specific changes depend on each industry. If you need advice, please contact us. We have converted from oil heaters to boilers many times for rubber latex drying factories in Binh Phuoc, Tainan, and Dong Nai. Due to the characteristics of the industry, changing the internal equipment is simple, mainly for drying or heating. But I have never seen a case switching from boilers to oil heaters, because boilers are more widely applicable and have more advantages. Before ending, let us consider the question: is energy consumption different between the two types of boilers? In theory, if oil remains good and water is well treated, the heat cost per product is almost the same. But in reality, the heat exchange efficiency between the two types differs. With steam boilers, exhaust temperature is only 120 to 140 degrees Celsius, so efficiency is higher. Meanwhile, oil heaters have medium temperature 180 to 250 degrees Celsius, giving efficiency 5 to 10% lower. Therefore, if the production line can use both, steam boilers will provide more advantages in operating cost. This is my complete presentation to help you understand the differences between steam boilers and thermal oil heaters. I hope this is useful for you. Thank you very much and goodbye.